firstly, we are going to see there were some things that we couldn't do yesterday. So there were iterators and generators, and there was also decorators. So we are going to start from where we left off, and we will be studying about these three things. But decorators I have kept for the last because along with that, we have web scraping also in this week's agenda. So if we are able to complete, we'll do these things. Otherwise, I'll add them to next week's agenda. Iterators and generators will be done today. Also, we'll be starting with the NumPy library, and this is going to take a little bit more time as compared. And the major highlight is going to be a case study related to NumPy. Okay, so we are going to intend to at least finish these four things today. And if time allows, we are going to do decorators and web scraping as well. Okay. Most importantly, in today's session, if you guys are not sitting with your laptops, I would ask you to do that because I'll be asking frequent questions and you would have to code today. The case study will be coded by all of you as a whole. I'll be simply guiding you guys with it. Okay, just give me a thumbs up if you get the instructions. Okay, so just to warm up with the session, we are going to start with one question that we did yesterday. So I shared this with you where every key was an alphabet or digit and it had a Morse code associated with it. We designed a function, you guys designed a function that could convert text to Morse. Now, can you please design another function that would convert Morse to text? Okay, Paras is already here with the code. Let's check it. All right. Well done, Paras. I believe if other people haven't done it, they should write the code right now and they should drop it in the chat box. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are writing the code now. Yes, Abhiraj, Shivam, and Paras. Paras Goel. Will you guys let me know if you are writing the code for it? All right, please take your time, write the code, drop it in the chat box. Yes, Modhwaj has joined us recently. Modhwaj, everyone is designing a function that would convert text to Morse code to text.
Okay.
You guys can use, yeah,
Okay.
you guys can use
Sorry,
the
there
dictionary.
was power cut on my side. Yeah, I will.
Oh, no worries. All right, guys, please update me on the code. If you are able to figure things out and if you are in the process of writing it, give me a thumbs up. If you give up, then there is a reaction emoji with clapping hands. Use it so that I know that you have given up on the code. If it's done, like very well, drop the code then. Meanwhile, Paris, since you have already given the code, can you write another piece of code using the lambda function that would calculate simple interest? Okay, just a simple function, but you have to use lambda to do that. Okay, to calculate simple interest. Viraj, Shivam, and Paras Goyal, please update me on your progress. Well done, Paras. This is the correct code. हाँ जी अभिराज, ये तो ठीक है, बट आप मोर्स कोड वाला आपने लिखा फंक्शन, तो वो भी ड्रॉप कर दो चैट बॉक्स में. Guys, there are 3 more minutes left in which you can finish your code and drop it in the chat box. Paras is saying, can we define and call a lambda function at the same time? Paras, can you explain what you wrote with the help of a code? Like define and call in lambda function. What do you mean by that? Okay, Modhaj has given up on this code. I really appreciate your spirit though. So don't worry. You guys, if you have given up, you can take help of Paras's code. Other people, Aviraj, Shivam, and Paras Goyal, do let me know if you have solved it. If you haven't, then please either drop a message in the chat box saying that you couldn't so that we can proceed with the session. Okay, that is completely fine. Modhaj, is your code working? This one that you dropped? Okay, no worries. Take help of Paras's code, and after the session, you can give some time to it. Abhiraj, Shivam, Paras Goyal, please reply, guys. Otherwise, this is going to be a very boring session. Okay, no worries. Completely fine. Paras, I'll look into it. I'm not sure, and I'll come up with an explanation for what you are asking. Like in JavaScript, you can. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll research about it and I'll let you know. Okay, completely fine if you guys couldn't solve. Okay, so let's proceed with the session, and we are going to start with a function that we have already seen, that is the sorted function. So earlier, we when we read the doctrine of the sorted function, we got to know that this function can take an iterable and this can also take a key. Okay, so earlier when we use this function, we hadn't provide any key of any sorts. So we will see how to provide a key to the sorted function and how many different kinds of keys you guys should provide. So for that, I am going to declare a list that is values. And this list is going to contain some, let's say, colors. All right. Now, if I want to sort these values and if I want to sort them based upon their length, so I can provide len as the key. Okay. And doing so will be sorting these values based upon their length. Otherwise, they'll be, yeah. So based upon length, I could sort my list. If I do not use the key as length, let's see what is the difference. Okay. Now these values, they are sorted according to their ASCII codes. Moving on, we all know about the lambda function now. So if we have a scenario where this list contains a tuple, and inside a tuple, the first value is, let's say, a string, and the second value is an integer. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to sort this list in a manner that these tuples, they are individually sorted based upon the integer value present in them. Okay. So not based upon the strings, but based upon the integer value present in them. So how can I write my key? You can use the sorted function. You can provide your iterable, that is values. And as key, you can provide a lambda function. Okay. So here, how to write my lambda function? One thing that I got to know here, that whatever is the key that I provide, that is considered as the criteria for sorting. So here I just want to indicate what should be the criteria. So lambda here is going to take one value, that could be anything. And let's say when sorted is going to help us iterate through this list, it will be getting one tuple at a time. Okay. Like if I run a loop over this list, I will be getting one tuple at a time. From this tuple, okay, that would be A, let's say, I want to consider this integer as the key. So if I do indexing for this particular tuple only, red is present at 0th index and 23 is present at first index. So I can mention that whatever is the value present at index 1, sort on, like consider that value as the criteria of sorting. Okay. So this is how you can write the key for your sorted function. And now this is going to sort your list based upon the values, the integer values of the tuple. If you want to reverse, like if you want the strings to be the criteria, so you can provide the index number as 0. If you have multiple elements, well, you could your tuples could contain more than 2 elements. Whichever element you want to be the key, you can simply uh, assign the index number of that value, and you can write a lambda function for it. Now, this is not the only limitation to the sorted function. You can provide n number of keys in n different ways. And I would ask you to explore the lambda of function on your own, that in how many ways you guys can use it and what all different things can be assigned as key. Here comes your second task. What you have to do, you have to do the same thing. Okay. That is to sort this list. I am providing the list in the chat box. Okay, so you have to sort this list using these integers only. But instead of writing the lambda function, you have to write your own function. All right, and you have to assign that function as key. Give me a thumbs up if you get the task. Okay, please start attempting. Instead of the lambda function as key, you have to design your own function and provide it as key. This is the list. This list contains strings and integer. I want you to obtain the similar kind of result, which is you have to sort this list based upon integer. But instead of the lambda function, you have to write your own function. Okay, you have to make a user-defined function. Like when you asked yesterday, Paras, that if uh, for map function, I guess you asked that can we provide our own function inside the argument of the map function. So in the same way, you have to provide the user-defined function that you are going to write as the key to this sorted function. Do you get the question now, everyone? Okay, please try to attempt it. If you give up at any time, you can let me know. Okay, there is no shame in that. Well done, Modhvaj. You have given the right code. Paras has also done well. Other people, if you are attempting in the same manner, give me a thumbs up. Modhvaj, this code of yours is returning an error. However, the first one that you gave, it worked fine. All right, everyone. Can I have any reaction from you guys to let me know that we can proceed with the further session? Okay, function is being called in the second code of Modhvaj. All right, I guess it is fine. The code that he has provided, it is working, or I know that it will work. Okay, no worries. Okay, Shivam has also given a piece of code. Okay, well done, guys. Give me a thumbs up if we can proceed with the next topic, that is iterators. Okay, so before we discuss about iterators, there are two things. There is iterator and there is iterable. Okay, so when we were talking about loops, we got to know that loops work on uh, iterables. Okay, such as lists, such as tuples, dictionaries, sets, and strings. So, what is the difference between the two? First, we have to understand it, and then we will see how to write an iterator. So, if we have a list, we have a list called values at the top, and you can use a function that is called dir. So, what this dir function is going to do, it will provide you a list of all the attributes that you can apply on this list. Okay, all the attributes, all the functions that are applicable on the list. There is one very special function that you are going to see here. This is known as iter function. Okay, if any object has this iter function, it means that those objects are iterables. Okay, all the functions that start with double underscore and end with underscore, they are called dunder function, magic function, or also called special functions. Okay, and they are of great value in Python, and iter is one such function. Okay, so if any object it contains this iter function, it means that object is an iterable, which means that this object can be looped over. Now, the second thing is that what is iterator then? Okay, so an iterator is an object which allows you to produce one value after the other. Okay, so you can generate values using an iterator, and an iterator, it has this iter function as well as another dunder function that is called next. Okay, so it is going to have this iter function and another dunder function that is called next. If you have an iterable and you want to check, or you have any object and you want to check whether this object is an iterator or not. So what you can do, you can provide it inside this next function. And if you get an error saying that this object is not an iterator, well then this object is not an iterator. Okay. So I hope you get the basic difference between what iterables are and what is an iterator. Give me a thumbs up if you guys have a clue about what is the major difference between iterator and iterables. Okay, I'll repeat myself. So iterables are those objects which have an iter function. Okay, so when we checked using this dir function, when we passed our list inside it, we got to see that this object, this list object, it has an iter function, which means this is an iterable. When we use loops upon iterables, this is the function that is called upon, and internally, the loop is using this iter function to generate the values of the iterable. Okay. However, iterator is an object which contains both of these functions, the iter function as well as this next function. And if you want to check if something is an iterator or not, well, you use this next function and you provide your object inside it. And if you get an error saying that this object is not an iterator, then this is not an iterator. Okay. Are you guys clear about what what is the basic difference between iterables and iterators? All right. So if you go by definition, what really an iterator is? So this object, an iterator, it contains a countable number of values. Okay. And each of these values, they can be traversed through a loop or they can be generated one at a time. Okay. That totally depends upon you. So if you want any of your object to be converted into an iterator, what do? You use an iter function, and I have a value or a list by the name of values. And what do I get in return? I get an iterator object of this list. Okay. Now, the iterables which have the iter function, I'm going to repeat myself once again. The iterables which have the iter function, okay, their iter function is called upon by the loops in the similar manner. Okay, and that's why when loops are processed over iterables, values of the iterables are generated. Okay, so what have I done? I have passed my list inside this iter function, and what do I get in return? In return, I got an iterator object. Okay, so what I can do, I can call it my iter, let's say. And in order to generate the values of this iterator object, I can use the function that is called next. Okay. And what I'm doing, I'm providing my iterator object as value inside this next function. When you run it, at the first instance, you get the very first value. If I run the next function again, I get the second value. If I run it at the third time, I get the third value of my list. For a fourth time, I get the fourth value. And if I try to run it for the fifth time, I get an exception saying stop iteration because I have already exhausted my list. Now, what this is going to tell me? So, in addition to the existing definition of iterator that we know, which says iterator is an object which has a dunder next function, which has a dunder iter function. Okay, this is an object which contains some countable values. And what you can do, you can iterate over these values. Similar thing could have been achieved by loops as well. But what is the uniqueness of iterator? Okay, why would I prefer iterator over loop or over any iterable? Now, as you can see here, iterators, they remember their state. When I called this next function for the first time, I could get my first element of the list. Then for the second time, I could get my second element of the list. Because the iterator, it is remembering its current state and what it is going to be its next state. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you understand everything till here? If you want me to repeat anything, write in the chat box. Okay. Now, what is... Yes, I'll tell you why do we need it and why do we use it. So, basically, the main advantage of iterator is something that is known as lazy evaluation. Okay. So, iterators, they do not work until you ask them to return any next item. Like you have seen, I got my iterator object in the beginning, and only when I asked it to return a specific value, only then I got the value. In this way, you can use iterators to deal with infinitely long iterables. When you have very massive data and you do not want to access all the elements of that data at once. So what iterators allow it allows you to save resources so that you can work on one value at a time. Okay. So if we have a scenario where we cannot store all the information in the memory, we can create iterator, which is going to give us an element only when we ask. So in that way, it is going to save time, it is going to save memory, and this particular thing, it is called lazy evaluation. In lists, in tuples, you see that all the even in arrays, all the elements, they are stored at once. But in iterators, you only get an object, and when you call upon the next function, only then the value is returned. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you understand what is the advantage of iterator and why we are using them? Okay, glad to know that. Now there is another function, there is another concept that is called generators. Okay. So Python has iterators and Python also has generator. What these generators do, okay, they return an iterator. Okay. Although they are pretty much like the normal functions that we have designed all along, but they have one special keyword that is called yield. The spelling is wrong, pardon me. Okay. So instead of returning a value, they yield a value. And what do generators do? They return an iterator. Okay. So how you can design your own generator to generate a couple of values. So just like we got to know that generators are normal functions. So what I'm going to do, I will design a function that I'll call square, and whatever number is provided, I will return the square of that number. Okay. So for a range, I'll return squares of those numbers. So let's start a loop for I in range of, and we will go till the number that the user has provided. And instead of returning the value, we are going to yield the value. I want to return the square, so I'll multiply the number by itself. And I have run this code. Let's give a call to this function. And what do? I provide the value as 12. Now, what we are going to do, either you guys can like directly use the next function upon it, or you can store it inside a variable. So, and then use the next function. So in order to generate the values out of this function, like if I show you the output, what is stored inside SQ, it is a generator object. And again, this object is not going to display the value until we use the next function upon them. Since what do generators do? They return an iterator. Okay. So in order to get the value, you are going to use the next function upon it. And when I use it for the first time, I get the first value, that is the square of 0. Let's use it again. And I get the second value. So you can use it as many number of times as you like. And when it exhausts the range, it is going to return an exception saying that stop iteration. All right. Give a thumbs up if everything till here is clear and if there is no doubt relating to what is the difference between iterator, iterable, and generator, and how to create a simple generator. Okay. This takes me to an important aspect of this concept, which is, like I told you, that this allows you to save a lot of memory. Can we prove it with the help of a program that truly, when you use iterator or when you are using a generator that returns an iterator, you save a lot of system's memory? So to do that, we are going to create a generator, and this generator is going to generate data. I'm calling it data generator. Feel free to code along with me, or you can also look at the code and later implement it on your own in whatever way you like. So what this function is going to do, it is going to take a value, and this value is going to be considered as the maximum value. Okay, so whatever value user provides, this data generator is going to generate starting from 0 till this value as many numbers. I am also defining a variable which is initial, and initially I'll provide the value as 0. Here we are going to generate the value. So to generate these value, I am using a while loop. And if the initial is less than maximum value, then what we are going to do, we are going to yield the initial value. And here we are doing what? We are producing the value. So 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. But in order to update it, we need to write a condition for updation. And so we can mention it here, initial plus equals to 1. I believe there should be no doubt till here. Can you give me a thumbs up if you understand this piece of code? Okay. Now here I'm going to give a call to this function. And this is a generator function. And how can I identify it? Because it has this till keyword inside it. So firstly, I'm going to give a call to the function data generator. And I will be providing a very large value. So 10 to the power of, let's say, 7. So this is a really great value, and I have provided it as the maximum value. So I need all the numbers starting from 0 till this value. Let's store it inside an object. I'll call it data iterator. If you have a look at this object, this is a generator object. But I don't want to generate these values. Although, since you can see that this is a very long data, and if you want to work upon this data rather than accessing all the values at once, you can use the next function to access each and every value. But this is not what we are planning to do. I simply want to know what is the memory that this object is consuming. So to get to know that, I am importing a module that is known as sys. Okay, so this module is mainly concerned with the system specifications. It allows you to know the memory of any object. It allows you to know your system specifications. And here we are going to use it to know how much memory this generator object is consuming. So how to do that? You can simply use a function that is called sys.get size of, and you can pass your data iterator inside it. And this returns in form of bytes how many memory this object is consuming. So this object, it is consuming 104 bytes. Till here, if there is no doubt, give me a thumbs up. Okay. Now I'm again going to call this data generator function, but instead of getting an iterator as a result in form of the return value, I would convert it into a list. Okay, so whatever values that are generated, I don't want the object, convert those into list. And since I am converting these values into list, I am dealing with a very large collection of items. So if I check how uh, much memory this is consuming, let me pass it inside the get size of function. So these many bytes are consumed by this list. The number of elements are same in both, but this is an iterator, and this here is the list, which is collection of all these elements. If you want to access these elements, you can display this list and it will produce all the elements. Give me a thumbs up if everything till here is clear. There is no doubt pertaining to what generators, iterators, and iterables are, and you know where to use them and how to use them, and you can relate them to any real world problem. Okay. So let us take a 5 minute break because we have nearly finished an hour. So we are going to take a 5 minute break. After the break, we are going to continue with the rest of the session. Give me a thumbs up if everyone is good to go and if everyone is up for the break. Okay. All right, guys. So 5 minutes break and we'll meet again. Okay, guys, do we have everyone here? Please give a thumbs up if you are present in the session. Okay. So let's do one last thing uh, with respect to iterators, and we are going to see how to create our own iterator. Okay. Okay. So one thing which is specific to iterator that I told in the beginning is that an iterator is an object which has two special or vendor methods. One is next and another one is iter. So this iter, it allows you to initialize your iterator, and next allows you to iterate over each and every next value that you find. Okay, so how can I create my own iterator? If I create a class and if I provide that class with these two functions, so whatever is the object of that class, it is going to have these two methods, right? So in the same manner, we can create an iterator. When I tell you about creating a class, now I know classes and objects and everything that is related to OOPS. It is a very vast concept, and since we are very time bound in this training session, so we won't be discussing that, okay, in detail, I would say, because there are a lot of things related to machine learning and AI to which we have to devote our time. So I won't be teaching about classes, but here we will see how to make one simple class to create our own iterator. Okay, I would suggest that please study about classes, objects, and inheritance on your own related to Python and all, because that is quite important. So let's start by creating a class. Now, how do you create a class? You use the class keyword and you can provide any name that you like. I am going to give a name and I'll call it dummy iterator. Okay. After that, you provide the columns, and after the columns, you take care of the indentation. Okay. This class, it is going to have two methods, iter and the next method. So firstly, I'll use the iter method since this will be used to initialize my iterator. Now, every method, all right, every method that I'm going to create for this class, it is going to have a parameter that is called self. Okay. So what this self is, I'm going to uh, tell you a little bit about this self. So self is not a keyword, it is a variable. And since this is a variable, you can use anything here. But conventionally, everywhere you will find self return. So what the self does, it is going to refer to the currently called object. As you know, that you can create a class and then you can use that class to create various objects. Okay. So this self or any other variable that you are going to use at its place, it is going to refer to the currently called object. I hope you guys understand it. If you don't, please research a little bit about classes and objects and you'll get to know it's quite easy. Okay, it's not something that is very complicated. So what I want to do, any object that I create for this class, that is dummy iterator, I want them to have this iter function. And so that I provide this self variable inside it so that any object which calls or uses this iter function, I can use the function for that specific object. Okay. Here we are going to start by initializing our iterator. So I have a variable that is start, and I'm going to start with it and give it a initial value of 1. Since any object will be able to access this method, so this object, whatever object calls this method, it needs to have an instance variable. Start needs to be an instance variable so that every object gets to have the start variable. So to make it an instance object, we use self dot start. Okay, self is used to refer to the currently called object, and when I do self dot start, it is going to be basically if I create an object of this class by the name of OB, self dot start means that OB dot start. Okay, for object, uh, uh, OB initialize start with a value of 1. Do you get the relation? Are you able to get what is the significance of self and why we are using it? Give me a thumbs up if you understand. Okay. And since we are using it to initialize here, we will simply return self, whatever is its value, once an iterator is created using this function. Next function for this class is going to be the next function. Again, it will have this argument that is self. And here I am going to make the iterations possible. So what do we need to do? Anytime that someone calls this next function, they need to be able to iterate from one starting to that particular value. Okay, whatever times they want to access the next value. So they should be able to iterate through this iterator object. We are starting from start. So what do? I store it inside a variable. Let's say it is empty. So now self.start, its value, we have stored it inside n. And whatever is the existing value, we are going to update it by 1. Once I write this code, I'll explain it once again so everything comes as a whole. Here I have updated the existing value of start. And finally, I am going to return n. So what is going to happen now when someone creates an object of this class? They will initialize an iterator with initial value of 1. When they use the next function upon that iterator object, self.start, which is 1, it will be stored inside n. Self.start, which then will be empty, will be add, uh, uh, added by 1. And we are going to return n, that would be 1. Are you getting it? Then the same is going to happen. The value will be updated as 2, as 3, as 4, and so on. Let's use it. इसका ऑब्जेक्ट बना लेते हैं. So dummy iterator, and I'm going to call it OB. This is the object. To initialize my iterator object for this class, I will be using the iter function. Now, this is one thing that is very unique with dunder methods. You initialize them or you declare them using double underscores at the beginning and the end. But when you call them, you do not use these underscores. Okay. So iter and provide with the object of your class. And here to access the element, I'll be using next function. So this one is initializing my iterator, and next me is allowing me to iterate through one object of the iterator at a time. I guess I am doing something wrong here. Let me just check if the code is correct. Yes. All right. So I hope you guys get it. How can I get each and every value of this iterator? And one thing that you can observe here is that there is no stop value. So this iterator, it will go on infinitely as many number of times as as I want to access this next method. If I had done the same, which is to run a loop infinitely, to run a for or while loop infinitely, that would have generated an error that would have consumed all of my memory. But iterator is also allowing me to work with infinitely long and almost infinite sequence of values. Okay. Do you guys understand how to create an iterator of your own? Give me a thumbs up if you get it. All right. Okay, now comes your another task. Since this iterator, it will be executing for infinitely long iterations. I want you to transform or modify the code in a manner so that there is a stop value for this iterator. Okay, you can define any limit. It can be 15, 5, anything. Just modify the code. I am pasting the code in the chat box if you have not written it along with me. Modify it in a manner so that this iterator, it has a stopping limit. Give a thumbs up if you understand what I mean by it. Okay. Start attempting. Well done, Paras. Your code is working well. Any other person who has written it or who is currently doing it? You guys have 2 minutes to complete your code. Give me a thumbs up if you guys want me to proceed, or if you have a code, you can drop it in the chat box. Okay, Modhaj has also dropped the code. Yeah, it's correct, I guess. Anyone else? Guys, give me a thumbs up if you want me to proceed. All right. Let's discuss about a module. Iterators, generators, they are done. Uh, there is a module that is called random, and this module is to deal with random numbers, to generate random numbers or random integers or random values. Okay, we'll be using it in our case study as well. So there are a few functions of this module that I would like to discuss with you guys. Now, if you want to use this module, you need to use the import keyword and mention its name. Okay. You can also declare an alias of this this module to use it easily in your codes. So what happens is that if you want to use this, all the function, any function of this module, you have to mention its name, and then you have to mention the name of this function, of the function of this module. So if you want to get rid of this, you can define an alias by using the by using the as keyword. Alias works just like a variable, so it is simply a variable name that you want to use in place of the module name. This can be anything. So you can define alias, but please keep the name of aliases relevant. Let's discuss a few functions of this module. So we have r dot random function that is going to generate a number, a random number. Each time that you run this function, you'll get a random number between 0 and 1. Okay. There is another function that is r dot rand int, and this takes a range, and in between the range that you provide, it is going to generate a random number each time that you run this. The range is inclusive, which means it can also produce 1, it can also produce 5, or any other number in between them. All right. Now, there is a very important function that is present inside the random module, and that is called the seed function. So all these functions of random module, they are going to generate a random number each time that you use them. But if you want to fix your value, if you want to fix the value that has been generated, you can use the seed function. So how to do it? R dot seed, and as a seed value, you can provide any integer. Okay. So for that integer value, for that value of seed, your random function will always produce a specific value only. If you change the seed, your value will be changed, but it won't be updated all the time. Okay. Also, we have a function that is called randrange, and this function is going to take a range, and it will again uh, produce any number between this range. There are a few functions such as choice, choices, and sample. These functions will be very relevant in our case study, so I'll be discussing these. Uh, we had a list, I guess. Let's declare another one. So I am declaring a list of colors, and I am using some color codes here. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to choose an element from this list at random. So you can use the choice function and you can provide your list. And this is going to return one random color or one random element from your list. All right, each time. Now, this doesn't mean that any color won't be getting repeated. That is possible, but every time you'll get a color that is selected at random. An extension to this function is choices, which will allow you to do the same, but the choice function, it returns only one value. Choices will return multiple values. So if you want to get, let's say, three values from this colors list at random that are randomly selected, you can provide the value of k as 3. Okay. If you read the docstring of this function, you will also find a parameter that is weights. So what do weights means? If you want any of these values or any element of the list to be given more priority than the other one, then you can associate each one of them with a priority or a weight. Okay. And weight could be anything. So let's say I give 0, 0, and 0.5 and 0.4. As you can see, I gave maximum probability to green. All the colors of my list is green. It won't necessarily mean that every time I'll get green only, but when selecting randomly, green will be given more priority than any of the other color. Okay. When I ran it again, you can see that we have two greens and one pink, since pink also has a nice probability as compared to red and blue. These values of weights, they don't like, you don't need to make them float always. They can be integer, they can be anything. Okay, integer or float. Okay, not anything, integer or float. You can use either of them. Okay, these were some of the basic functions, and I hope you guys understand them. Can you give me a thumbs up if you know how to use these functions? Okay, please keep these functions in the back of your head. We are going to use them at the time of case study. One more function is left, that is sample. What the sample function is going to do, let's say I have this list, and from this list I want to get four values selected at random. So it is going to do that for me. Okay, let's see if it works with this colors list also. So sample is going to produce as many values as you like from a given list, and these values will be selected at random. Let's discuss two more functions which are quite unique. One is eval, another one is enumerate. So what the eval function does, if you have a string which is basically defining an operation. Okay. So here this string, no matter how much hard I try, I cannot solve it and I cannot obtain a result 32 by solving this string. Okay, because this is a string, these are simply the characters. This is not an operator. These are not integers so that they will get multiplied. But if I want to make it happen, I can use this eval function, which takes a string expression as value and it is going to evaluate it. Okay. This enumerate function, what it is going to do, it will take any iterable. So I'll provide my colors list and it returns an enumerated object. If you want to generate these values, you have to pass it inside a list constructor, a tuple, or any loop. And what it does, it is going to assign each value with an integer. So if you want to specifically see the, basically, these are not the index numbers actually, because if you want to start from 1, you can provide the start value as 1 or start value as 2. So I won't say these are the index numbers, but if you want to in one way want to assign some numbers to your elements, and if you have a situation where it would go well, so you can use enumerate function to index the elements, okay, or provide a serial number to your elements of any iterable. Okay, I believe these functions were pretty simple to understand, and everyone got the crux of these functions. Give a thumbs up if it is clear. Okay, let's do another task. So what you guys have to do, you can use these functions, any of these functions, to solve the question that I'm going to ask. You have to write a program that is going to generate a random mathematical question. Okay, mathematical question can be very simple, just like I did here, 8 into 4. So you can provide two numbers and one operator. And these numbers, they should be randomly selected. And the operator, that also should be randomly selected. Do you get it? You have to frame the expression. Keep the range of the numbers between 1 till 10. And the operators that you guys are going to use the common operators, plus, minus, multiplication, and you can use division as well. So these are the choices of operators. This should be the range of numbers, and you have to generate a mathematical question, randomly selecting a number and randomly selecting an operator. Each time someone runs the code, a random question should pop up. People should be able to answer for that question, and based upon the answer, they should get an evaluated result. Okay, whether you have answered correctly or you were not able to answer at all. Do you understand what is the agenda of this question? Would you be able to do it, solve it? Give a thumbs up if you are going to attempt. Feel free to use any of the functions that I have stated above. All right, please start. Well done, Paris. Your code is working. And yes, you have done pretty much everything that was expected. Other people, if you are attempting the code and if you are on the verge of completion, give me a thumbs up. 3 more minutes to complete it, guys. After that, I'll proceed with the NumPy library. Okay, the time is up, guys. Shall we proceed studying the NumPy library now? Please react with a thumbs up if you want me. Okay. Okay, let's start by declaring NumPy. So let's import NumPy, and the very frequently used alias for NumPy is NP. You are free to use your own aliases, but it's better to use the conventional ways. So NP is the alias for NumPy. Now, though this is a library that is used for some scientific computation, but it is very well famous for the arrays, Python arrays, which can be created in any number of dimensions. Now, if you want to create a 1D, 2D, 3D array, that is possible. If you want to create a 7D, 8D, 9D array, that too is possible. Obviously, the visualization of such an array could be difficult, but then you will be able to store elements and you will be able to store data in that many dimensions. So there are a variety of operations that you can perform on these NumPy arrays. Having said that, NumPy is majorly famous for that NumPy is majorly famous for its arrays. It does not mean that in Python you can only declare arrays using NumPy. Okay, you can declare arrays without NumPy as well, but those arrays they don't have much functionalities to them, and that's why we use NumPy to declare arrays in Python. So starting on, we will be starting with declaring a one-dimensional array. So what do? You use np.array function, and you can provide any list inside the array function, and that will be returning an array object for you. Okay, so this is one simple way to create a one-dimensional array. Let's store it inside a variable. Now, we already had lists, and when we talk about the way in which elements are stored, arrays only allow homogeneity, which means all the elements they should be of same data type. Whereas in list, the elements can be of different data types. Lists allow heterogeneity of elements. So why is there a need to study about arrays? Now, one major way to study array is that they are faster than lists. It is said that they are 50 times faster than lists. And also, a variety of operations can be performed upon arrays. And there are various universal functions that you can use on NumPy arrays and get your expected results. So since I say that homogeneity is maintained inside arrays, if I try to declare a string within these arrays, within these list of numbers, all the other elements will be typecasted to a string. Okay, and you can see that the data type of this array is also displayed to me now, which is Unicode 11. Unicode, well, it is used to define strings, and 11 means that the maximum length of any string in this array can be 11 characters long. Is this understandable to you? I guess this is pretty much very basic. So no matter how much hard you try declaring elements of multiple data types, that won't be just possible. Okay, they will be typecasted into uh, whatever is the suitable data type. So you can check the type of this ARR variable and you'll get numpy.nd array, which means n-dimensional array of the NumPy library. Also, there are a few attributes that are available at your hands. What are attributes? We already talked about them. These are variables associated with an object that contain some kind of information about that object. So there are 4 to 5 very majorly used attributes with respect to arrays that you can use to know more about the array that you have created. So if you want to know the dimension of the array that you have created, you have ndim attribute. If you want to know the size of the array, you have the size attribute. Size simply means the number of elements that are present inside array. If you want to know the data type of the array, you can use the dtype attribute. It returns int 32, which means that elements are of integer type and the memory that they take is 32 bits each element. That is, there are 4 types of integers in Python: int 4, int 16, int 8, and int 32, and I guess int 64 as well. Okay, now there is a fourth attribute, that is item size, which is going to tell you how much memory each element of your array is taking. So we get what? 4 bytes. Now, this is the memory that one element is taking. If you want to calculate the total memory, you can multiply it by the size of your array, that is 6. And ideally, 24 bytes is the memory size that this array should be consuming. But when we talk about arrays, there are 2 kinds of memory. there is also another kind of memory that is known as buffer memory that is provided to the arrays. So this memory that the elements are consuming along with the buffer memory comprises the total memory of the array. So if I want to know the total memory that this array is taking, I can use the sys module and I have the get size of function. You can pass your array. So it is total consuming 136 bytes. This is the memory that the elements are taking, and the rest of the memory is the buffer memory for the array. Give me a thumbs up if everything till here is cleared. Okay, pretty much the very basics. I'll be asking you guys to use this get size of function to compare between array of one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and three-dimensional. Okay, so at a later stage, you have to do that. No, no, buffer memory is not fixed in size. All right, moving towards the last attribute, that is shape, and this tells the shape of your array. In case of one-dimensional array, it is only going to return the size because there is no other dimension possible. However, in case of 2D array, it will return a row and column. In case of 3D array, it will return all the three dimensions. So we are going to see how shape varies with respect to the dimension of the array. So this was all about the basics of 1D array. Let's declare a 2D array now. Okay. So a very simple way to create a 2D array is to use a nested list. So I had np.array function. I have np.array function at my hands, and I can create a nested list to transform it into a 2D array. So 1, 2, 3, which is going to be my first row, 4, 5, 6, second row. You can create as many rows as you like. Each list is signifying a row, and each element of that row is standing for the column inside the 2D array. When you run it, this is the 2D array that you get at your hands. If the lists are of unequal size, you'll get a warning saying that you are trying to uh, construct an array from unequal lists. Okay, that is not possible. So you won't be getting the required result in this case. So each list should be of equal length. Let's store it inside a variable. Excuse me, guys. All right. So what we are going to do, we are going to check the shape of this array, which is 2 cross 3, meaning that it has 2 rows and 3 columns. You can also check the dimension of this array, which is going to return 2. You can check the size, the data type, the item size, everything. All right. So all the attributes are also applied on to the arrays, and be the array of any dimension. You can use all these attributes on those arrays. Okay. Now, can you guys think of a way to construct a 3D array in similar manner? If you closely observe, I used a list to construct a one-dimensional array. I used a nested list to construct a two-dimensional array. Can you figure out how to construct a 3D array using the same concept of list? Give me a thumbs up if you know, if you can figure it out in a minute's time. Okay, write a piece of code and drop it in the chat box. Please look at the screen, everyone. This here is a 3D array. If you are going to check its dimension, we'll get 3 as a result. So this is how you can create manually n-dimensional array. I'll ask you to create a 4D array in a similar manner, you can create so. One indication that you can get by looking at it is that whatever is the dimension of the array, that many number of brackets you will find at the beginning and at the end of the array. Okay, if that array is properly created. So in 3D array, you'll find 3 brackets on either ends. In 2D, there will be 2. In 4D, there'll be 4 and so on. Okay. Now, if you want this array, right now, this array, if you have to visualize it, you can consider it as one slice of the Rubik's Cube. Do you get it? Okay, a Rubik's Cube is that colored box that you solve to match all the colors. So if I slice out one block of that Rubik's Cube, I can visualize this array and that sliced part in the same manner. If I want it to be having, if I want to increase the width of this array, so what do? I can mention another nested list right here. Right now, the width of this array is 1. Let me just also show it to you using the shape function. So if you, sorry, shape attribute. So how can you interpret the shape of this array? It means that this array, it contains 2 cross 3 2D arrays. Okay, and what is the width? The width is 1. So you can see that these arrays that are present, their shape is 2 cross 3. And how many such arrays are present? One array, which is the width of this 3D array. If you want to increase the width, you can very well mention another set of arrays inside it. So here we have it. The width has changed. And if you want to visualize, this is how your array will look like. This is the first width. This is the second width of the array. Now the array contains 2 slices. So looking at the array, you will also observe that a higher dimensional array is constructed using a lower dimension array. Row of this array, one single row of this array, it in when you look at it, it is quite similar to a 1D array. If you compare to one width of this array, it looks like a 2D array. And then two 2D array are combining to form one 3D array. Do you get the hierarchy? This is just for the sake of understanding. Okay, I'm not saying that you have to stick to it. The code that Modhwaj has provided, it only had one width, so necessarily it won't be possible that the array should have multiple widths. I'm just demonstrating it for the sake of understanding. Okay. So I hope that it would be quite easy for you guys to create any dimensional array using this concept, and you'll be manually able to create any dimensional array. Moving on, let's have a look at some of the functions. Okay, some of the array creation routines by using inbuilt functions. Okay, so a very frequently and commonly used function is arrange. And just like the range function, it is going to generate a range of numbers. Okay, but that would be uh, of type array. So if I want to generate 10 numbers, it is going to generate starting from 0 till 9, 10 numbers, and these 10 numbers will be an array. If I wanted to have a start value and a stop value, that is also possible. If I want to have a step count, that is also possible. And you can use positive or negative, either of the numbers, to define an array using the arrange function. Okay, the concept is same like it was in range function. You will very commonly see arrays created using this function. Now, if you want, you can see that this array, it is of one dimension. If you want to change the shape of this array, so we have a function that is called reshape, and you can apply this function upon your one-dimensional array, and you can define whatever shape you want the resulting array to be in. So I can convert it into, since these are 10 elements, I can convert it into a 2D array of shape 5 cross 2, 5 rows, 2 columns. Okay. I can also convert it into 2 cross 5, 5 cross, 10 cross 1, 1 cross 10. Okay. But you cannot provide the shape that is incompatible to the number of elements that are present in the array, which means if I want it to be in a shape of 10 cross 2, which will necessarily take 20 elements, but the array has 10 elements, I won't be able to do that because the shape is incompatible. Give me a thumbs up if you understand the arrange function and if you understand reshaping. Okay, quite easy. All right. Another function is called the linspace function. And this function takes three arguments. One, uh, these arguments, they represent the range. And the third argument, it is going to represent the number of elements that I want to generate. The linspace function, it is going to generate 10 elements in between the range of 1 and 2. Okay. So if you want to change the range, you can change the range. It will again produce 10 elements. If you want to change the number of elements, you can change that as well. The beauty of this function is that all these elements, they are equally spaced with one another. Okay. So if you want to generate, you guys can use it in data visualization when you want to generate colors from a color map, and you want each and every color to be like only a shade apart. So you can make them equidistant by using the linspace function. I don't know if such a function is present in any other language that you know, but if you know of a similar function, then linspace in Python can be used to do that. Okay. We also have a function that is full. This function can be used in many ways. So if I pass two arguments, let's say my first argument is 10 and my second argument is -1, it is going to generate a 10 element long array and fill it with -1. This is one way to use this function. So first element is the length, second element is the number that you want this array to get filled with. If you want it, if you want the resulting array to be of 2 dimension, you can provide the shape accordingly. And then the array that will be generated will be of 2 dimension. Similarly, 3 dimension, 4 dimension, just provide the shape, and whatever the array is generated of whichever dimension, it will be filled with the value that you have provided. Give a thumbs up if everything till here is clear to one and all. Okay, let's discuss two more functions and then we will take a break. So np.once, again you can provide a shape, and this will create an array that will contain ones only. And np.zeros, again you can provide a shape, the array will be filled with zeros. The shape can be anything. It can represent a 1 dimension, 2 dimension, any dimensional array. That should be given for you guys now.
Yes. Yes, for some.
There is also a function np.I. You can provide any shape and it is going to generate an identity matrix for you. Okay, ones will be present at the diagonal. Please correct me if I'm saying it wrong. I guess this is an identity matrix.
So could you please restart my machine?
All right. Okay, so we'll take a 5 minutes break. And after the break, we will explore indexing and slicing with respect to arrays. All right, we'll meet after 5 minutes. Is everyone present here? Can you guys react if you guys are here in the meeting? Okay, so let's start with indexing and slicing. Now, the concept, they are similar, and to apply them, the usage is also similar, like we were doing for lists, tuples, and other sequences. So we won't be discussing slicing and indexing for one-dimensional array because it is like literally the same. You can use negative numbers, positive numbers, start, stop, step. It is completely same. We'll be seeing how to slice and how to index two-dimensional arrays. Okay? Because it is going to be comparatively complicated and still not that much complicated as compared to 3D arrays. Okay. So let's declare an array, and I'll be declaring an array of 25 elements, and I'll reshape it to 5 cross 5. This is my array. Now, if I want to index anything out, you need to provide both the numbers, that is the index number for row and the index number for column. Index numbers, they start from the start in the same manner, 0, 1, 2, 3, and goes till the length of the column -1. And similarly for rows, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, sorry. If you want to talk about negative index numbers, they are going to start by -1 for the last column, -2, -3, -4, -5. And similarly, the last row will be having -1, -2, -3, sorry, -3, -4, and -9. Okay. So if I want to index out this 5, it is present in the first row and zeroth column. So first row, comma, zeroth column gives me my element. You can also write it in another manner. So if I simply index out just the first row, it is going to provide me the whole row. And we know that if something can be indexed out, if there is something present inside any object that can be indexed or sliced, then you can further index or slice it. Like we did with nested sequences, nested list, and nested tuples. So I can index 5 out of it by providing another set of brackets. And since 5 is present at the zeroth index number, I can index it out. So there are two ways. You can either write it like this or like this. Both are acceptable. But more commonly, you will find every kind of indexing written in this format only. Okay. So this is how you can index anything out. You can use negative index numbers also. So to index out 5 using negative index number, -1, -1, -2, -3, -4 is the row, and -5 is the column. Okay. Feel free to use any kind of index numbers. This takes us to slicing. So in slicing, what is the normal syntax? You provide the variable name, you provide the start, stop, and step value. Now, here, since you are using two different index numbers to represent any particular element, any specific element, you are going to provide a set of start, stop, and step value for both of them. So there is going to be start, stop, and step for row and start, stop, and step for columns. All the values are optional. You can ignore them or you can include all of them. That totally depends upon your criteria of slicing. So let's try to slice these two rows. Okay. So if I want to slice these two rows, let me just display the array here. Okay. I want to slice these two rows. So we are going to do it very step by step. To separate the start, stop, and step for row and for column, you are going to use a comma. So just before the comma, you're going to mention these values for row, after the comma for the columns. So I want to start from row 1. And let's say if I don't define any stop value, any step value, and for columns as well, I don't write anything. Now, what has this returned to me? It has returned starting from 1, all the rows and all the columns. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and after that, all the rows are displayed to me. But I want to stop here at the second row, so I should mention the stop value as 3. And what happens? I get my desired rows that I wanted to slice. Now let's say my criteria has changed and I don't want these whole rows. Rather, I only want this part of these rows, that is 6, 7, and 11, 12. Which means now I want to slice the columns as well. So when you want to slice the column, you should have a start value again for column. So 0th column is this one, and this is the first column. So start from first. Let's go till the end. So this gives you 6, 7, 8, 9, and all the column after that. I want to stop at this column. So 1, 2, and again 3. And I get my desired elements. So what I mean to say is that to perform slicing on 2D arrays or on 3D arrays, you have to be very careful because you are not providing only value for only one sequence. Okay, there are two directions for rows and columns, and you have to keep that in mind. Do you guys get it? Give me a thumbs up if you are understanding it. If you follow only for rows, you will see that these two rows are sliced. If you follow only for columns, you will observe that these two columns, they are sliced. But altogether, slicing of 2D array is going to return you a common result of the two. Okay, because if you observe, this is the row and these are the columns. And the part which is common to both the slicing, which is 6, 7, 11, 12, that is returned to me. Okay, so please pay attention while performing slicing. You can try several permutation and combination of different numbers. You can also use negative numbers. Feel free to do that. And let's do an activity related to slicing. So what you have to do, you have to create a 2D array in the same manner. And you have to slice first two rows and last two columns. Okay, firstly do this, then I'll give another task. Give me a thumbs up once you start attempting. Okay. You both in one or the other way have sliced the same elements. Okay. Are other people attempting it? Okay. I believe everyone can do it, and we shall proceed further with other functions and concepts. Do you guys, can you please react with a thumbs up if we can proceed further? Okay. So since there is only almost an hour left to the session, I am going to skip some things and I'll ask you guys to do it on your own. Uh, yeah, Paris, I got that your code has reversed the result. No worries with that. All right. So I am going to assign a few tasks that you can do later after the session. So you have to see what all operations you can perform upon the array. And by that, I mean the mathematical operations. How you can add the arrays, how you can subtract, multiply, and so on. You will find that there are two kinds of multiplication. One is element by element, and another one is the dot product. So please figure out what is the difference between these two kind of multiplications. Okay, this is going to be a task for all of you for later. Let's explore aggregation functions that you can apply on arrays. Now, these are the functions which can be applied on multiple values and they will return one single result. So if you want to get a sum of all the elements of your array, you can use the sum function. If you want to know the maximum number, use the max function. We have the min function to know the minimum element. If you want to know the standard deviation, we have a function std. This is going to return you the standard deviation of all elements. If you want to know the variance, we have a function var that is going to return variance. Similarly, we have similar functions for median, mean, mode, like all these to calculate all these statistical values. Okay. I believe these functions are pretty much easy, and if there is any other function left, you guys can explore it on your own. Give me a thumbs up if I can rely on you guys for that. All right. Let's see what else we have to do. Okay. Then we are going to skip towards joining and splitting of arrays. Okay. So there are various functions that you can use to join two arrays, and similarly for splitting two arrays, depending upon the situation, depending upon the criteria. So let's create two arrays, and I'll be creating using the arrange function, two simple arrays. Okay, so I have an array A and an array B. Both of them, they contain 25 elements each, and the shape is 5 cross 5. Now, joining two arrays means that you are putting the elements of these two arrays together, and you should be very careful about the shapes of the array while doing so. We'll be exploring everything with respect to shapes of the array. So, a very commonly used function to join two arrays is the concatenate function. You can simply provide your arrays. Either use a tuple to pass your arrays or a list. So I'm using a tuple here. If you have a third array also, you can mention that. Fourth array, mention it as well. So there is no barrier to how many arrays you can concatenate together using the concatenate function. Now, if you run it all together, this is the result that you get. Till here, I have my first array, and from here onwards, I have the second array. Okay, which means it has concatenated the second array just below the first array. Also, please notice the shape of the array. Earlier it was 2D, and now also the resulting array is of two-dimensional. The concatenate function, it has a parameter that is access. What is going to happen if we use this parameter? You can see that by default, the value of access is 0. Okay. So if I use the function, but I change the value of access and put it to 1, the value of access can be either 0 or 1. So you can see if we try to concatenate 2D to a 1D array, we cannot do it using the concatenate function, but there is another function by which you can do that. You can concatenate uh, a 2D along with 1D. Okay. But yeah, I would say that please try doing it. I can recall that it is not possible. All right. So about the access parameter, you can either set the value of access equals to 0 or equals to 1. When we have set the parameter value equals to 1, you can see that column-wise concatenation has taken place. This is the first array. This is the second array. All right. There are other functions, and these functions are the stacking functions. So we have an H stack, which stands for horizontal stacking. We have V stack that stands for vertical stacking. And there is also column stack and a normal stack function. Okay. So if I perform H stack upon these two arrays, that is A and B, the array, they get concatenated horizontally, which means on the horizontal axis, on the x-axis. If I use V stack, then the arrays, they get concatenated on the vertical axis. One array is stacked below the other. This is similar to concatenate function when x is equals to 0. This is similar to concatenate function when x is equals to 1. Give a thumbs up, guys, if you are able to follow up with stacking and concatenation. Okay. Now, let's use the stack function as well. So np.stack a comma b. What do we observe here? So up until now, whatever was the shape of the two arrays, okay, A and B, they both were 2D, and the resulting array was also in two-dimensional. But what the stacking function has done, it has literally stacked, like stacking one plate over the other. In that manner, it has literally stacked A over B, which has resulted into changing the dimension of the output array, which is of three dimension. Okay. So if you will check, your array now has a width, and this is the shape of your array using stack function. If you use column stack, so it also works in the similar manner like the other functions were doing. It stack and concatenate with access equals to 1. All right, so this is how you can join or merge together different arrays. Now let's try splitting them. So I'm going to store this array in a variable. And let's use the split function. There are three kinds of split function: H split, V split, and a simple split function. You provide your array. So it is not array2.split, it is np.split. And you write the second argument, which is concerned with how many splits of this array you want to perform. So here I'm randomly writing 3 as of now. As an error, I get that array split does not result in equal division. Okay. So what the split function does, if you read the docstring, you'll get to know it splits an array into multiple sub-array, and all of these array, they should be equally splitted together. So if I check the shape of array 2, I cannot split into 3 equal arrays. So let me try and split into 2 equal arrays. Again, it is not possible. Let me check one thing here. Okay, fine. So when I try to split it in 5 equal arrays, it has splitted the arrays, and each and every row, it is now a part of a different array. This is for a second array, first array, third array, fourth array, and so on. So the split function, it has splitted the array uh, like row wise. If you want to access one particular array from this list, you can see that this is a list of arrays. You can index that particular array out. If you use the vsplit function, so it is going to split your array vertically. And again, you can see that there are 5 equal divisions which are possible. Oh, sorry, vertically means like this, means it is going to split the vertical axis into two. And let's see what that split is going to do. So it has splitted the columns since there are 10 columns altogether. Each and like it has formed arrays with 2 columns each. Give a thumbs up if you guys understand the splitting and stacking of arrays. Okay. There is one last concept left, and then the basics of arrays would be covered. So this is about reshaping of arrays. We already know a function that is reshape, which will reshape an array into whatever shape we like. If I have a 2D array, like so, and I want to directly convert, and not just a 2D array, any dimensional array, and I want to directly convert it into a one dimension. So we have a function that is flatten, which will flat the array into one dimension. A similar function with another name is raven, that too does the same task, which is of flattening the array. If you use the reshape function and you pass the shape as 1 cross minus 1, what it has done, it has uh, not literally converted into one dimension, but you can see that earlier the array, it had rows and columns, and the shape of this array was 5 cross 10. Now if you observe the shape of the array, it is 1 cross 50. If you try to do the same, but you reverse these values, minus 1 and 1, then the shape of the array changes, and it is 50 cross 1 now. Okay, so these are few of the reshaping techniques that you can use upon your arrays. This is very commonly used in machine learning to convert the features and to transform the features, okay, to train the model. All right, so I believe everything is done. One simple function is left, that is transpose. Okay, converting rows into columns, columns into rows. And there is an attribute as well, that is dot p, which serves the same purpose. Please give a thumbs up if you understand everything we have done till here. All right, guys, we are going to take a short break of 3 minutes. And after that, we will start with our case study. And I'll also demonstrate the instructions that we'll follow while solving. Okay. All right. Do we have everyone here? Give a thumbs up or react with an emoji if you guys are all doing well and if you are not sleepy at all. Okay. So we have very successfully completed 2.5 hours of this session, and we will now be proceeding with our case study. So for that, I am pasting the problem statement of the case study on the screen. Okay. And you guys can have a look at it. So the main agenda of this case study is to apply all the concepts of NumPy that we have studied so far. It is mainly concerned with creating arrays and joining arrays and splitting arrays according to the task that we will be trying to achieve. Now, apart from NumPy, we will also be using, please carefully listen the instructions from now on. We will also be using the random module to generate the data for this case study. Okay. The main problem statement for this case study is that there is a movie review website that needs to create a database to store their data and perform operations on it. We have to create a dummy model with 100 users and 1,000 movies just to explain how it will work. Please lay emphasis on the word dummy. Okay, nothing about it has to be serious. All the numbers, all the data will be produced using the random module only. You can use any function of that module to produce the data. Okay, whatever you desire. When we talk about creating a dummy model with 100 user and 1,000 movies, okay, it means that as a whole, there should be a matrix of shape 100 cross 1,000. There should be 100 rows where each row will be signifying a user and each column is going to signify a movie. Every element of this matrix is going to be a rating that is given to that movie by any particular user. Till here, is there any doubt or do I need to repeat myself about the problem statement? I hope you get it. To make it easier for you guys to visualize it, let's say this is user 1 and consider that this is the first row. User 1 is going to provide ratings for as many movies as they want. Okay, there is no compulsion that all the movies should be rated by a user. Okay, if they want to rate 2 movie, 3 movie, or all 1,000 movies, that should be a number which should be given to this user selected by random. Okay, so every task will be done using the random module. So let's say the user has rated the first movie and they have skipped the second movie and then also a rating to the third movie, skipped the fourth one and given a rating to the fifth movie. In a similar manner, you can imagine 1,000 movies and each movie has been rated. The movies which have no rating, okay, which are omitted, they should be represented by -1. Okay, this is the main criteria that an unrated movie, it should be represented by -1 only. So this is user 1. Similarly, another row will be representing the data by user 2. So if they have rated a movie, then the rating, otherwise -1 for all the movies. And in this way, the matrix that will be created altogether is going to be a 100 cross 1,000 shape matrix. Please give me a thumbs up if you understand what I am trying to say. There are 5 people. I need a reaction from all of you. Okay. So since I'm the trainer, I already have a solution for this case study and I already have an approach decided for it. But I won't be simply dictating that approach. I'll be guiding you guys, and you have to solve each and everything. For each task, you can see that these are the tasks. For each task, I am going to provide what should be the expected result. Okay. And then you guys have to code for that particular part. If at any moment you feel, okay, that you are not able to solve, please write in the chat box that you are not able to solve it, so that I know that I need to provide the solution from my end. Okay, every person is going to solve on their own. If you are not yet uh, if you have not yet switched to your laptops, I would request you to do that now. And every output that I provide, you need to provide me a solution for it. Give me a thumbs up if you are ready to go along with this process. All right. If any person who is not ready to code, they are allowed to leave the session. Okay. But if you are here, you have to code for all the tasks that I provide. Okay. So let's begin. Firstly, you are going to start by generating 1000 movie IDs starting from 1301. The output which I am expecting, it should look like this. I have provided for 5 IDs only, but you have to generate 1000 movie IDs starting from 1301 and so on. Store it inside a variable, and we will be using it at a later stage for the case study. Once I tell you to do a task, give me a thumbs up and start with it. Please provide the code once you are done. All right. Everyone who has written the code or who is not able to write it, please take reference. Paras and Mordhaj has provided with a well-written snippet, and you can use it. Okay, so the movie IDs are created. Abhiraj and Paras Goyal, please let me know if you are following us and if you are also able to create the movie IDs. Okay. This takes us to our second task of the case study, which is to create a matrix please, I would request you to use the similar variable names which I am asking. So you have to create a matrix by the name of movies matrix, and you have to store users rating in a form that there are 100 users. Each user can review as many movie as they want. The review should be in between 0 to 10, and both of these numbers, they should be inclusive, which means the review could be 0 and 10 and anything in between. If the movies are not rated, then the rating should be -1. Okay. So this is the crux of the task that you are going to do now. I would also guide you. You can basically use loops to loop through the ratings. You can produce the ratings using the random functions of the random module. You can also you should also make sure that for a user, a set of movies, they are not preferred, which means that you shouldn't rate all the movies starting from the beginning, and you shouldn't rate the movies at the end or in the middle, or that shouldn't be the part. You should rate the movies randomly. You should provide the ratings using the random function, and everything with related to this particular question, it should be done using the functions of the random module. All right. Wherever a data is to be generated, use the random module to do that. A hint or help that I would give you to solve this question is that you can create a array of 1,000 elements, and you can rate it. You can fill that array with -1 in the beginning. Okay. So let's say this is my array, and you can create an unrated array for all the users. Let's say this is for user 1. Now, what you should do, you should randomly select the indexes of the movies that should be rated by this user, and then you should provide a rating at random to these indexes. Please give me a thumbs up if you get the approach and if you get the questions. If you feel that you have a better way to do this, you are allowed to do that. You are allowed to produce a code. As a result, you should have a movie matrix. Now, I cannot display whole of this matrix, but I'll display a few elements. So what this movie matrix is going to be, just give me a minute. Yes, this movie matrix should look like this that I have asked you to. So you can see that this is an array altogether, and are these numbers which are positive, they are representing the ratings. -1 are the places where the user has not rated a movie. And if you can see, okay, just let me drag this here. Can you see the comment inside the Teams meeting where I'm highlighting? Please give me a thumbs up if you can see the part that I have highlighted. Okay, so this is the array. Okay, this part of the array is concerned with user 1. This part of the array is concerned with user 2. This part of the array is concerned with user 3. And so on, there are 100 users. I hope that now everyone is able to understand how to do this. Give me a thumbs up if you understand it. Please attempt. Take 10 minutes to do it. And if at any place you feel you are not able to do it, I would really appreciate if you mention it in the chat box. All right, you can start. Modhaj, there are two things that is wrong. One is that I think, firstly, you have concatenated all the movie IDs, and then after that, you have concatenated all the ratings. Okay, this shouldn't be done. The approach that you have used, it is correct. Okay, but you have done it only for one user. If you have to do it for 100 users, then what change would you make to your code? Is there anyone else who has a better code? You got the crux of it, but there are some changes that you need to make with your program. Sorry, with your code. Anyone else with a better code or who is about to complete? Yes, Paris's code works. See, this is a movie matrix that he has created. It contains rated as well as unrated movies, and he has defined a size of 100 cross 1000 such that there are 100 users and 1000 movies. Okay, anyone else? Abhiraj and Paras Goyal, could you guys do it? Okay. Okay, now tell me or help me out with it. Do you guys want to resume the rest of the case study in the similar manner, or should I provide the problem statement to you guys and you can come up with the solution by Monday? Please let me know, whatever is your choice. Do you want to carry out the case study? Okay. You want it for homework because, okay. Okay, no worries, guys. I'll provide the problem statement along with the case study. I hope you get the crux of the problem statement. You can solve it in any way you like. I simply want the result to be according to the case study. Okay. All right. So if you don't have any doubt, you guys are free to leave the session. I'll provide with the notebook and the problem statement. Also, you have to submit these answers, the case study answers, either after the session or before the session because I'll take some time to look at it. All right, you can drop me a chat. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being so patient for 3 long hours. Have a happy weekend. You can leave the session now.